Hello, my name is Bill and welcome to Mind Your Crypto. Do not miss this day's lesson because we are going to talk about the RSI, Relative Strength Index. When do we have an overbought? When do we have an oversold? How to use properly the Relative Strength Index, hidden bearish RSI divergences, hidden bullish and bearish RSI divergences, and many other secret parts. Before we begin, do not forget to join our monthly subscription, Patreon/Mind Your Crypto. This is a typical chart right here on TradingView, and now we are going to see how to add the relative strength index in your chart. Okay, basically I'm into Ethereum USDT. If you go to the simple search and type Ethereum USDT, you're going to see many layers right here. I am picking the first one, which is in the Binance platform, and you're going to click right there. You're going to have the 4-hour time frame. Okay, you can either have the daily, the weekly. Go at the top left of your screen and choose in the hours the 4-hour frame. Now you are going to eventually have a chart like this. What you're going to do is go to indicators, type the RSI or relative strength index and click it. Okay, so we are going to do the same. We are going to click it and you can see you will get something like this. This is the graph that you're going to get basically if you just have it at your screen. What we need to do is to fix the settings, right? And what you can do in order to fix the settings, it is of course to go all the way up to this point right here, okay, and either click the the top line or the bottom line, or to eventually go to the settings of the RSI. We can have, just by double clicking the top line, these settings. What you're going to do is simply to have the RSI settings as they are. Now the MA settings, the moving average type, is a small type, a line right here, the yellow line, that this is the newly addition in TradingView. You can either have it or not. Personally, for me, it is working sometimes not. Okay, but in general, if you go to the style right here, you can either click off this line. Okay, if you do not want it, if you do not like it. This line provides us some support and resistance levels for the current RSI. For me, it is just not working like this, so I'm having disabled. If you like it though, you can add it. Now, in the next RSI settings, because these were the MA settings that we do not care about as we have removed the moving average line, now what we need to do it is to have the 14 days and the source to be close. In some of you, the close might be I'd say high LC3 or open, high, low, close 4. This one right here, or open or high or low, you should have it in close. We are going to go to the style now, and I am insisting mainly of a style of the thickness. You need to see the line by yourself. You can choose the color of the line right here, anything you want. I have chosen the yellow, and behind I have chosen the purple one, and this is why I am telling you all of this. Okay, because right here, this is my RSI. You should be having something like this right now. The yellow with the thickness of 4 or 5 or 3, sorry. Yeah, I'm having a 3 thickness right here. You can see if you go to the style, the RSI. And of course, the background, it is this one right here. You can see the opacity of the background. I have it at the 18%. Okay, so I can see more the line. I do not care about the background. If you want, you can change it as you want. Now, what is happening with the RSI? We have one bottom and one top. The top line is the 70, the exact 70. Do not care about the 0.8. The bottom line is the exact 30. Whenever we go below the bottom trend line, like here, we have an oversold situation. That means many sellers have stepped in, and eventually we are anticipating the buyers to step in right now and join us. And when we go into an overbought, for example, like here, back on Saturday, 10 September 2022 for Ethereum, we have an overbought, therefore we anticipate the sellers to step into the market. And of course, Ethereum would be going afterwards further down into the below 30s. You can see we had a sell pressure finally, and we went into an oversold situation. Anyway, the thing right now and the problem is that many people are trading due to the fact that we have an overbought or an oversold. Just by having an overbought or an oversold, or when we have a bullish RSI divergence, we are going to explain what it means a little bit after. But anyway, when we have an overbought, it is not necessary that we are going down. When we have an oversold, it is not necessary that we are going up higher. And what I mean by that is we are going to the graph right now. Okay, and you can see that we had a downtrend right here for Ethereum, or right there on Sunday, 14 August. We can go all the way up to this huge correction that we had on Friday, 10 June 2022. You can even go there by yourself. And the reason I'm going to show two examples of why you shouldn't be having the oversold and the overbought in your mind, only it is because of this. Right now, if you can see, we are going into this time frame where Ethereum was in a hugely oversold situation. Look at that right here. Whenever we had this oversold or this, we should be buying, right? And we would expect a nice price pump. However, the price pump was only 4% before we go down even further, crashing down to minus 21%. Why was that? First of all, the multi-time frames. Many people are staying into the 4-hour frame. They are not seeing the daily frame. They are not seeing the weekly frame. Okay, and they are doing this mistake, and they are not seeing that they need to watch out the weekly frame before they make any decisions, and the daily frame as well, because it shows the general trend. So for example, right here, going back on 10 June, you can see that on 10 June we had an oversold situation almost. At the same time, we didn't have a nice higher low pattern or any bullish RSI divergence. At the same time, if we go to the daily frame right here, all the way back to the 10 June, okay, back here, you can see the correction, the huge correction that was set place back there. If we go here, we will see that we didn't have an oversold yet. On 10 June, we were here in an RSI in the daily frame. So that means possibly, it is very possible that the Ethereum would go all the way further down and we would break down the line. Okay, so anyway, what you need to do is, if you want to trade for the short term, go to the 4-hour frames. But if you have an oversold in the 4-hour frame, then you need to check the other time frames, especially the higher time frames. If we do not have an oversold in the daily or in the weekly frame, then the altcoin could be going all the way down. Another thing that you have to look is the Bitcoin chart. If the Bitcoin chart is about to crash or to go down, then we have less chances into going upwards or downwards. But anyway, this is another story. Right now, we are going to focus more in the RSI. So potentially you are going to see that going back in the 4-hour frame and going back all the way to 10 June. Okay, so you can see we are around here. Standing here, we should be pumping up, but instead we had another correction. Standing here now, we should be pumping up. But instead, look, we are forming higher lows. At the same time, this is a bullish RSI divergence. Okay, this is right here a bullish RSI divergence with lower lows and higher lows. However, the price analysis was just not something that we want to see. We had a little bit of a pump, but instead, in the next hours, we would just go even further down. And this comes into play, the price analysis. What you always need to do is to focus not only in the RSI on what it does and how oversold it is, but at the same time the patterns, because we might be having, for example, a bearish pattern. We might here, for example, what we did, it is to have a nice bearish descending triangle, okay, with lower highs and the same lows, and we would go all the way further down. Or eventually, if you take this point right here, we had okay, a bearish pennant, right? We had a bearish pennant formation coming in. So we broke down from the bearish pennant and we would go all the way down. So if we have a huge selling pressure going on, do not trust the RSI. What I mean by that is you need to look into the volume and the candlesticks. You can see right here that we have consecutive red candlesticks, okay, huge sell pressure. We need to see more uptrend in order to buy. For example, right here you can see that momentarily the stop actually the lower low stopped right here, and we had a little bit of a buying pressure going down, but again a buying pressure, so we would go into a market where probably we would be going sideways or a little bit higher. But eventually, when we have a strong downside, avoid using the oversold situation, especially in the lower time frames. What I mean by that is the 4-hour frame, the 1-hour frame. Now, what you need always to watch out. You need to watch out for bearish RSI divergences, hidden bullish RSI divergences, or hidden bearish. First of all, let's explain what a bearish RSI divergence is. Bearish RSI divergences come into play like that right here. You can see that going back into the moment where the Ethereum was extremely bullish, we had continuous bearish RSI divergences, lower highs in the RSI. I am into the daily frame right now, and constant higher highs in the price. You can see the higher highs right here, the lower highs in the RSI. Now, whenever we have constant bearish RSI divergences, and especially when the RSI is above the 70, when we are looking to them, then what you need to do is to exit. Of course, in a bull market, it will take multiple bearish RSI divergence in order to go down. But look something like here. For example, right there we had a mini bearish RSI divergence, just two of them and very close to each other. When the bearish RSI divergences are close to each other, we do not have a huge downtrend. We do not expect a huge downtrend going on. When we see bearish RSI divergences very when we have a very long period between one bearish and two bearish RSI divergences, then we should be expecting huge correction even on the weekly frame. For the time being though, when you are into a bearish market in the Thursday 31 March, you can see right here, we are in a bearish market. The bearish cycle had started, and you can see that we had a mini bearish RSI divergence with a higher high pattern right here, and we would get all the way down. Look at that. Ethereum would get all the way back down, and this would be the first step of a huge downfall. So eventually, if you are in a bull market, then you should ignore the first two bearish RSI divergences. But when you are into a bearish market, from the time that you are going to see the RSI moving above the 70, especially in the daily frame or the weekly frame, then this is where you exit the market. Whenever we have a bearish market and bearish cycle, be sure that whenever we approach the above 70s in the daily frame, it is very likely that we are going to see a crash, especially even if we form the slightest of a bearish RSI divergence. Now, what is next and what you should be always focusing to? The patterns. RSI has patterns as well. RSI, for example, right here, I do not know if you can see that, but we had a lower high with a higher low pattern that led to a bullish RSI divergence. Okay, bullish though, a bullish pennant actually in the RSI. That meant we would go all the way up higher. You can see it in your screen right here that we had lower highs, higher lows. At the same time right there, we had a little bit of a bullish RSI divergence. If we took these lines, okay, if we took these lines from this point of view though, we could be having a bearish RSI divergence, okay, because we could be after a downtrend, lower highs, higher lows, we could be falling down. However, though, the RSI insisted that we are going bullish because we came after an uptrend. The lower highs and the higher lows we had came after an uptrend, and then going back down to the top trend line right here for the RSI, we broke above, and this was the entry point. Okay, so whenever we see the RSI, we are always seeing for pennants, for double tops, except for the bearish and bullish RSI divergences. Okay, we are going to see, for example, rising wedges, falling wedges, something like the chart patterns. So being familiar with the chart pattern, it is very, very good for the RSI. And of course, the hidden bullish RSI divergence is something like this. But instead of having higher lows, we should be having lower lows. For example, let me tell you something. You are going to see sometimes that we are going further down and down right here and down, okay, but at the same time, going to have lower lows in the RSI, the price is having higher lows. Okay, so we are having lower lows in the RSI, but the price is moving higher. This is not a bullish RSI divergence, but this is a hidden bullish RSI divergence. Why is that? Because you are seeing, and the investors are seeing, that despite the fact that we are having always an oversold and more oversold and more oversold, and we have huge sell pressure coming in, the price is having higher lows, so it doesn't want to drop. The price does not want to drop. So what we are going to do, simply buy this altcoin. And eventually we are going to see after a huge buying pressure coming in. So this is the reason behind some important buying opportunities. The same goes when we have, for example, lower highs. Okay, sometimes what we are doing, a hidden bearish RSI divergence, let's say, for example. Okay, so what on the hidden bearish RSI divergence, we have higher highs in the RSI. Okay, so you are going, for example, right here, and what you're experiencing is either a higher high pattern on the RSI, okay, and what you're experiencing is a lower low in the price. I do not know if this was the case back here. It was not the case back here, but in general, what you're seeing with this pattern, it is that you are having something similar like this. So what the investors are doing is you are getting higher high in the RSI. That means you are approaching an overbought situation, but at the same time, you are not seeing the price increasing. So this is kind of worrying, right? And you are eventually going to exit there. This is what a hidden bearish RSI divergence means: a hidden bullish RSI divergence, a bullish RSI, and a bearish RSI. Now, the patterns of the RSI, do not ignore them. They play a very huge important role. For example, now on the Ethereum, we are into the daily frame and we are having this bottom trend line. Look at that. We were holding this bottom trend line back here. Okay, you can see on Monday, 10 October. At the same time though, we are coming to see that we are having a higher high as well. Could this be a rising wedge after a downtrend, which could bring more disaster? If we lose this bottom trend line and we close below in the RSI, then that means, and we go further down, that means that we should be exiting. Okay, and this would bring more despair into the market, going below the 30s, and then we should anticipate either going below the 30s and then we have a nice buying pressure, or forming constant bullish RSI divergence where we can say that we are having a good buying pressure. Now, whenever the daily frame in a bearish market, whenever the daily RSI is not below the 30s, it can always drop down before the RSI goes above the 70s. Look at that, for example, right here. Into a bearish market, we are seeing strong many times that the RSI cannot manage to pull it off above the 70s before we have a selling opportunity. This is because in a bearish market, many people tend to get profits very earlier and they are afraid, so they get actually to take profits a lot earlier. They are afraid the market goes down, the price goes down, and therefore before we even reach the above 70s, we have taken the profits and then the price will go down. At the same time, in a bearish market, it is very obvious that the best entry would be whenever the daily RSI or the weekly RSI would go down below the 30s, especially on the weekly RSI. Now, going back to this time frame right here, this is what I want to mention. In this time frame, whenever you're seeing below the 30s RSI, it is an insta investing opportunity. Okay, especially in the crypto market, you need to have the RSI below the 30s, and if you have it, then you can go in and invest in this crypto. Okay, however, when you do not have a weekly RSI below the 30s, it is not a good investment option when you have a bear cycle. When you have a bull cycle, of course, you do not anticipate and you do not expect the RSI to go down from the 30s in the weekly scale. However, right here you should always buy, and this is what I insisted in my videos about Ethereum. When it was falling down here, I was talking about, okay, buy it. And the worst thing it can happen to you, it is to have a buying pressure, but at the same time we continue the bearish cycle. So buy now and you can just think later, or if you want to sell it or you want to keep it for further price action. Anyway, right here for Ethereum against USDT chart, you can see that we had a nice buying pressure when we were down below the 30s in the weekly RSI. And here you can see the multiple bearish RSI divergences it took for Ethereum to drop down. And eventually many people were bullish, but you can see that the price went a little bit higher than the previous high right here. At the same time though, we had an overbought and continuous RSI divergence. This was the top of the mountain. You can see this was the last time that Ethereum would go above the 70s. We were about to drop down and start the bearish cycle. So the market, the crypto market, we had the indexes that we would go down. Okay, the crypto market was telling us, okay, I am about to go down. I'm forming multiple bearish RSI divergences in the weekly. So you should be exiting. You can see that different time frames are very important to the RSI pattern, and you should having based on what you are an investor, you are a trader, short term, mid term, what do you want to do with an altcoin? And of course, if you want a more long term period, you should be having the weekly frame. If you want the mid term, short to mid term, daily frame, and if you want clearly short term time frames, which is until 1 week, you should be having the 4-hour frame as well. Okay, so this is it for the RSI pattern. Thank you so much for watching. Do not forget to join our monthly subscription, Patreon/Mind Your Crypto, and of course see you soon with many more videos. Bye.